the next 2 years, I absolutely endorse what you say about the challenges. I think our industry has been through, in some ways, more change, probably in the last 2 or 3 years than maybe in the last 20. And I think we see a great deal of change ahead of us. We will see enormous pressures coming from the convergence of media channels, and this came up this afternoon in the council meeting. There are many new competitors in our space, and there is a big job to be done to define our role in the marketing mix, if you like, in the future. We see shifts in, even despite what Lord Bell said about being proud to be British, and I am too, we see great changes ahead of us in our place in the world. The Anglo-American axis that we've enjoyed for so many years is certainly changing, and that will bring new challenges and, again, new kinds of competitors and new kinds of issues, new kinds of economic pressures and social pressures. We see huge changes in the media environment, both in the broadcast and print media, but also obviously in the social media world. And as an employer, which I think probably almost everyone in this room is, of one type or another, I think we see huge changes in the people that work in our industry. I think we see enormous changes in terms of generational clashes, if that's the right word. Most of us in this room, if I may be so bold, not everybody, but most people in this room are of a certain age, brought up in a certain period, with a certain set of values, and that's great to bind us together, but a lot of the people that work for us are not of that generation. They are digital natives, they are people who have a totally different view as to what they expect of us as employers. We looked at some research earlier on, and Lord Bell made the point that he thinks that our industry doesn't have a very strong reputation. Interestingly, I know that Hill & Knowlton, the agency that I work for, is overwhelmed with graduate applications, and I know it's true of all of you. So somebody wants us, but somewhere in there, we have to tell that story better to a new generation of people who have different values, and that gives us a big communications challenge as we go through the next 2 or 3 years, I think. And I'm thinking Loretta's looking after the frontline group, and she sees this more than most. In terms of the dealing with change, I think I am enormously fortunate. I'm coming into this role at a time when so much has been achieved. I think my challenge is to make sure that we maximise that momentum, and that we keep going, and that we raise the bar even further, and we don't settle back and kind of congratulate ourselves, which I think can be a risk. The 2 areas of focus that I will try to work with Francis and the group on over the next 2 years is, one is reach and the other is relevance. And dealing with reach first, we must continue to widen our membership outside London and the South East. We must. And we will commit to doing that. And there's an enormous amount of energy and hard work that's being done by Francis, the sectoral group heads, the regional heads. But we need to make that much more real, I think, in the way that we think about our business. We need to set that standard as an industry association. Equally, we are becoming more international. I talked about the shift in geo-demographic, geopolitical power. Certainly I see it at Hill & Knowlton. The little Englanders can no longer just sit here and pretend that everyone else is not important. And I'm really thrilled that Richard's part. Richard is he chair or president or God or president? It's a big word, isn't it?
God is next.
God is next. Richard is currently president of ICO, which is giving us a really solid link to our international sister associations. And I noticed that when I talk to some of the offices in Hill & Knowlton and other countries, they're beginning to talk about ICO as something that they want to be part of, and I think that's a real opportunity for us to spread the word more internationally. A great initiative that I think Francis has been particularly led is the widening of our relevance into new areas, new sectors. And I think I see every reason for that to continue. Lord Bell said reputation has never been more important than it is today. And we all want to believe that. I think it is true, and the more that we can use that as our common platform to expand into our partner areas, to partner with groups in other parts of our communications world, the better and the stronger our voice will be. And then finally, I have to say I was a great champion of the initiative to bring clients in industry in-house members into the PRCA, and I'm just so pleased. It's early days, but it's just so vibrant. It makes such a difference. And I think in terms of our external voice, no nobody will any longer be able to say, well, you would say that, wouldn't you? And I, for one, certainly hope that we will take that opportunity with both hands and really use that to raise, in a much more public way, a much more confident way, to pick up Tim's point. I think it is true sometimes we're apologetic, we don't need to be. What we are doing, why we are doing it, and why it's good for people, and why they should value it more. Finally, I think I would also like to see us as a clearer career choice, better access. I'm afraid, and I can only speak personally from my agency's point of view, when I look around our building, I still don't see people from enormously diverse backgrounds. We're just not a very diverse industry. And that to me doesn't feel that that isn't going to be very helpful in 5 years' time, because our world is changing so much. We have to be very careful that we maintain relevance and we maintain currency. And that, I think, is going to require us to do some things that are bold, perhaps uncomfortable. But I hope that we now have the strength and the commonality and the opportunities to try to tackle some of those issues. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for putting your trust in me for 2 years, and very much to all my colleagues that I work with in the PRCA, and all the new ones that I haven't met yet. And I very much look forward to the opportunity.